All right, y'all. I bet a lot of you have just recently started or are about to start a new job in tech. Side note, I actually went back to software engineering, so yes, this actually includes me, and I will be making another video about this. And no matter how the times have changed, or what technologies are being used, or what companies are at the top, starting a new job is always scary. Thoughts might include, but are not limited to, what should I prepare? How should I even prepare? What if I don't get along with my coworkers? What if I can't keep up and learn all the things in time? Did they make the right decision hiring me? Am I ready? These are all thoughts that I've had at every job that I started, and let me tell you from the get-go, all of these feelings and thoughts are very natural and a normal part of the process. And you know, on this channel, I like talking about the feelings that arise as a person who works in tech, and so today I wanted to help you all who are navigating this currently. And this is just something that everybody goes through, prepping for that first day / week / months on the job, so hope this helps you out. And so in order to talk about this today, I've actually invited a few other people who've gone through this recently to share their perspectives to kind of supplement and tell a full story that it's not just me, it's not just you, there's a bunch of other people out there who are experiencing and thinking these same things. And before we move on, I want to say a quick thank you to Formation for sponsoring today's video. So for those of you who don't know what Formation is, if you're an engineer with 1 to 2 years of experience and you're looking to really level up your engineering skills to land your dream job, then definitely check out the Formation Fellowship. Formation was founded by staff-level engineers at Facebook and Nextdoor who interviewed thousands of candidates and wanted a better way to prepare engineers to perform at a FANG-level bar. Once you apply and get accepted into the fellowship, you get a personalized training plan to fill your specific skill gaps, you get direct mentorship from super senior engineers, and you get referrals directly into the top companies in the industry. In fact, I partnered with them to create a mayuko X Formation Diversity Scholarship. It was really meaningful that I got to do this with them because we got to cover the full tuition of one person's cost into the fellowship program. And as a result, we received 113 applications and we're going to announce the winners in mid-September, which is very, very soon. In fact, in the application, we actually asked about career transitions, and reading these responses really reminded us that it's never too late to pursue your dream. And we really appreciated the applicants were so open and vulnerable with us. These stories were really inspiring to read. So thank you so much to everyone who applied and also for Formation for doing the scholarship. Their fellowship program is still ongoing, so if you're interested, you can apply for free on their website at formation.dev, and whether or not you get in, you'll get some invaluable career advice from an engineering mentor and a free prep guide that's a really helpful resource to prepare you for FANG-level interviews. Thank you again, Formation, for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the video. I think starting a new job in tech is honestly really similar to starting that first day of school.
It was pretty much like the first day of school, right? I kind of just psyched myself up. I was ready to go. I had my uniform out the day before, right?
That's Luis. After he graduated from the Formation Fellowship, he landed a software engineering job at Capital One after a career in theater and the arts.
It was my first software engineering role, having no idea what it's like to really be, or to have a day in the life of a software engineer. I think everything as far as what's the day-to-day was completely new and something I had to adjust to.
And that's Aiden, who's also a Formation graduate, who started a new software engineering job about 7 months ago.
I kind of tried my best to just make sure that my nerves are put to the side because, kind of like anything that you're starting that's new, you really kind of just want to soak in everything that's coming at you.
So yeah, let's talk about those nerves first because that's the biggest thing. How do you deal with it?
I think it's okay to be scared. Because I think the nerves are good because it means you're excited. If you were dead inside and you're starting a new job, then maybe there's a problem where you're not excited about this thing.
And that's Selena, who's the head of recruitment at Formation, who previously has helped thousands of interns adjust to their first day of work at Facebook. Now, when it comes to nerves, there's a lot of techniques that people use to try to calm down. Things like deep breathing and meditation and visualization techniques, I've used them too. And sometimes you just have to sit through those uncomfortable feelings and wait for them to go away after maybe couple of weeks of working there, and you just get used to it. I asked Selena about this because, again, she's seen thousands of people start their first day. She said she even saw some people get on the wrong bus. So I really love what she had to say.
I think you can put those fears and those nerves into practice of I'm really excited. What do I do with this excitement? I'm gonna go meet a bunch of people at my new company and ask a bunch of questions and get to know people. And that's you could turn that fear into excitement versus maybe that it's just the nerves are neutral, Everybody's starts off as a new person. You obviously remember being new at school or you've had that experience over and over and over again, but it subsides. It always, like, you just take it one step at a time. Like, after the first week, you're no longer the newest person at the company.
Now, one of the things you can do to deal with these nerves is to manage your expectations. Because one of the reasons why I think it's like really scary to start a new job is because you don't know what they expect of you and you don't know what to expect of them. There's just like so much ambiguity in the air that probably it just turns into fear. And the good news is, the more that you switch jobs or like the more you see people go through their first day, you kind of realize what those expectations are. So in the first week or so of your job, most teams are not expecting you to make like a meaningful contribution yet. In fact, you'll probably be spending that first week just like setting up your environment because yes, it can take that long.
Well, for sure, I think one of the big things was how long tech was gonna take to be installed because there were a lot of hiccups, and then just like it took a lot of that onboarding week to just download a lot of different things and to make sure I had all the right technologies. And
it might be a little bit challenging to like get everything set up and running and get started, but like there's going to be people that can help you.
So if you've ever heard of or like felt the need to like make your very first pull request in that first week, like don't worry, there's usually not that expectation. And if you do end up creating a pull request or something, it'll likely be for something really small and easy to kind of show you how the pull requests work. It's actually more of a risk for you to start contributing to things without really knowing how everything works together yet.
There's this like feeling of needing to be productive at the beginning that I think we just innately have as workers. Like, you feel good when you can ship something out or that you can contribute to something. And it's kind of an uncomfortable, awkward feeling when they don't expect that of you. Like, you want to jump in and you want to start coding right away, but actually they want you to like wait. They don't give you projects right away. They want you to like sit in sort of like a student and learning space where they're like, you need to learn how to do this stuff before we actually give you stuff to do. And this is not a time for working. This is a time of actually like sponge absorbing, learning, and just watching how things get played out. And it kind of feels weird because you feel like, why are you paying me? I'm not doing anything. Or like, I'm not actually doing any work. And I feel kind of weird about that. And you feel like you're doing a bad job because you're not producing anything. The expectation is not to produce right away.
And so yeah, that first week is really about getting set up and learning. Depending on the company, that can actually stretch into like the first few months. At Netflix, in fact, my manager told me that like for the first 6 months, she's not expecting me to make any huge contributions and instead to spend that time to really learn about the code base, the product, and the people that I'm gonna be working with. So then the next 6 months are gonna be really productive. And so yeah, that kind of timeline of is it a few weeks or is it a few months? That's something that can be really helpful to ask your manager during that first week of the job.
So like ask your manager, ask your team, like what's the ramp up time like? How many weeks do I have to ramp up? And what's your expectation of me at the end of that ramp up period? Like, do you expect me to have like tasks out by X date or whatever? And just set those expectations so you just know when you need to start actually getting productive.
But wait, shouldn't you actually know how to do the job when you start the job? There's definitely this notion that like when you get hired and start at the job, like you know the ins and outs of it and you know how to do the thing already. I mean, that's what they assessed you on in the interview, right?
I think my manager's manager kind of clued me in on what to expect in my new role as far as like technologies and, the tech stack at GoPuff. And so when I first joined, I was like, okay, I got to learn everything about the tech stack and I got to make sure that I'm like really good at, I think it was like GraphQL and Node.js and these different various technologies. So that was the first thing that I kind of did to prepare myself.
But realistically, that's not true.
I think you have to get it through your head that the first couple weeks of your job are not the interview. You already interviewed, you already proved that they like you, they want to hire you, they were eager to hire you, they gave you the salary, all of it's already yours. You're not interviewing in your first few weeks. That's already done. Illegal to work before your start date because they're not paying you. Then they have to like work out how to pay you those like for that extra work that you did. Even if you don't know all the code bases and all the languages that this new company is like, maybe it's a different stack. Learning that stack might not be that helpful either because they might do it in a way that is not like the same as by the book. At Facebook, it was like that where like iOS and Android was completely different internally than it was like if you were to take a class. So it actually is not helpful. So you might just be wasting your time.
Which, yeah, like every company, every team builds differently. Even if the technologies listed are the same, the way that they get used is usually really different. And so that's honestly what makes working at each company really unique. I mean, Aiden studied some stuff before he started his job, and then when he got to his job, he was told to study and learn something completely different.
I was definitely surprised on the first day or whatever when I had my, initial meeting with my manager or whatever, when he basically told me like, oh yeah, so the first thing I want you to learn is Flutter. I was like, wait, that wasn't on the list of things that I was expecting to know.
But something I learned from Selena is that it's actually literally illegal for companies to force you to study and learn things before you start the job. So if that makes you feel less guilty about not doing the summer homework before school starts, then hopefully that helps. But of course, if it's something that you want to do, then I'm sure that it will not hurt. But even then, there's gonna be a lot of company-specific stuff that you need to learn on the job, which you're not gonna be able to Google. So no matter how much you study before the job, there's still gonna be a lot more that you have to learn once you get there. And yes, this is where that golden rule comes up about starting a new job in tech, and that's to ask lots of questions.
Tip number 1 is ask questions at the beginning because no one expects you to know things. No one's testing you on like, who founded this company, what year, or whatever. No one's there like trying to quiz you or anything. Like they already made the hire. They wanted to hire you. They already made the decision like, yes, we like this person. You already went through all the interviews. That's different. And you just have to ask. You might be given a small task just to like practice how to use their code base and like understand like, oh, this is how the code review process works. It's not necessarily about the task itself or being able to independently do all this stuff, but it's really like, we want you to learn the process, how to work with the team, how to do the code reviews the way that we do them, and to just, go through the flow of it. And then, it'll kind of, you'll get into the groove where you don't feel like you have to ask about every single thing. But in the beginning of working at a new place, you should ask tons of questions. You shouldn't hide your questions from your manager because you're afraid to feel dumb. That's like tip number 1 is ask questions at the beginning because no one expects you to know things.
And yeah, this tracks. I've been on 5 different iOS teams, and while over time I was able to identify that there were patterns to how things were built and shipped and stuff like that, each of them did things a little bit differently that I really needed to pay attention to the process and how things were done at each company to make sure that I wasn't breaking things and to be like an effective member of the team. Not to mention, all of these companies are in like very different parts of the industry, but also all the people that I worked with at each company were very different, and I need to figure out how I can work with them. And asking questions. I know that it sounds scary to like sound dumb or whatever, but I think it really shows that you're a curious person, that you have some humility, and that you're really eager to learn.
Making the career switch for myself, like there's a lot of times where the imposter syndrome kind of settles in, right? And so I'm just like, okay, I'm afraid to ask the question, but at the same time, I kind of have to bite the bullet and be like, hey, what is this? How can I achieve this? Because the reality is I don't know. And especially too, working with other members on my team who have been doing this for a while, it sometimes can be a little intimidating because as much as I am an overthinker, right, I'm always like, okay, well, what if I ask this? Well, I don't want them to think that I'm, the bottom of the barrel or anything. But at the same time, like, if I don't ask the question, I'm not gonna know.
I've definitely had experiences where I went weeks without asking what like something meant. I didn't really understand the conversations that were happening around me, and then when I stopped for a second, I was like, hey, I don't get this, and then someone explained it to me, then I was actually able to participate in those conversations and get what's going on. And most people are not gonna judge you for this. And if they do, maybe don't go to that person for questions, but I trust you there are gonna be so many people who are willing to help. And at the end of the day, it's okay to make mistakes too. Allow yourself the grace that you're not gonna have everything figured out in the first week, because trust me, nobody ever does. While it's uncomfortable to be in this phase of like being in training, I think it can really help to have the mindset that you're actually exactly where you're supposed to be. Like, it's literally your job to be in training.
Just try to enjoy the time where you don't have a ton of projects and you don't have a ton on your plate, because that'll never happen again at that company. Those first few weeks, that's the only time where you have no responsibilities except learning. So just focus on learning. Don't try to like speed up and like, you know, jump past it and start working and being productive. It's like you'll have the rest of your career there to do those things.
I just can't stress enough to just allow yourself to not, well, to allow yourself to be okay with messing up, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I've been there, like afraid to make the wrong step, and instead like I end up either not doing it, or in the end it's not even a big deal because my teammates will be like, or my team members will be like, oh, you know, like, oh, I've done that before, or like, oh, you know, like, you know, it's not a big deal, like it's okay.
And lastly, I want to recognize that a lot of us are starting jobs in remote environments, which we're all still kind of getting used to. And starting a new job where you're not going to like naturally bump into your coworkers or have lunch with them every day and talk about stuff poses a challenge for how you're going to build personal relationships with your teammates.
I think just being remote, that's just been a huge challenge, because even though it's nice to just, you know, be able to kind of roll out of bed and be able to just kind of hop on my computer or go to my stand-up or whatever the case may be, you know, not having that personal interaction sometimes can be a little difficult.
Organically, like when you were at an in-person company, you're able to like meet people for coffee and doing all these things to like, you get to know people outside of like the meeting, the work meeting. And now you don't have any time with people outside of the work meeting. I think if you're in like a remote environment, it's really hard to make remote friends with people at work. So try to bring your whole self, and like, you know, don't bring your like LinkedIn version of yourself to the office. You know, you can share a little bit about who you are, and like that's kind of how you make friends.
I found that like joining meetings early, or even just spending the first 5 minutes to just like talk about non-work stuff, or staying afterwards to do so, or just like finding time to just like connect with your coworkers in some way is really helpful. Of course, do so when it's appropriate, but it's a great way to make connections. And a lot of people recommend setting up these like one-on-one meetings where it's just the two of you for either 30 minutes or an hour to not only get to know their work and their role, but get to know them as human beings, as people. It definitely takes a lot more effort to make those connections now that remote work is more common, but I really do think that your experience at a company is really like made by the people that you work with. And so definitely worth getting to know them. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Selena, Luis, and Aiden for letting me interview you and sharing your perspectives with everybody. If you're starting a new job in tech, then let me know in the comments down below. What makes you nervous? What are you scared about? What's helped you to kind of calm down your nerves? And if you're interested in learning why I went back to software engineering, then make sure to subscribe to this channel because that video is coming soon. All right, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!